In the darker shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes, the order of the Abracast. We are the brave and bold.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Stigmata Studios presents The Jinn Jihad. The Jinn Jihad kicks your face with myths, mysteries, epic battles, suicide bombers, quirky characters, and divine power armor. In this epic graphic novel, the warrior archangels descend on a city in chaos. It's all-out war. The non-standard assembly battles an ancient terrorist organization, and their ultimate weapon, a corrected, magically enhanced, unstoppable monster, the Jinn. This graphic novel is a wild ride. It's one part distant Arab myth, one part Old Testament angelic vengeance, and one part unique heroic tough guys. Available on Amazon. Get more info on the Jinn Jihad and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
At several places in the Delta, Hermopolis, Lycopolis, and Mendes, the god Pan and a goat were worshipped. Strabo says that in these places goats had intercourse with women, and Herodotus instances a case which was said to have taken place in the open day. The Mendesians, according to the last writer, paid reference to all goats, and more to the males than to the females, and particularly to one he-goat, on the death of which public mourning was observed throughout the whole Mendesian district. They called both Pan and the goat Mendes, and both were worshipped as gods of generation and fecundity. Diodorus compared the cult of the goat of Mendes with that of Priapus, and groups the god with the Pans and Satyrs. The goat referred to by all these writers is the famous Mendian ram, or the Ram of Mendes. E.A. Wallace Budge. She walks by moonlight. The power's on within her as she takes off the clothes.
The Abracast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
All right, welcome everybody. I am your host, John. Hey, congratulations to everybody for surviving Thanksgiving. Oh, it's always rough. A lot of travel, a lot of calories, you know how we do it. So, congratulations. I hope everybody had a safe and fun one. Thank you for tuning in. I love you all. I love you all for letting me babble at you for an hour or so every week to help you get through your workout or your work day or whatever you're doing. Oh, babbling, yes, but albeit passionate babbling, which is going to be the case of this evening. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody and encourage everybody to support the show. There's plenty of free ways to do it. Rating and reviewing on iTunes helps, and I haven't got a rate and a review for a while, so all that stuff helps, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. The chances are you're already on iTunes anyways. You can tell a friend about the show. It's what I like to call spreading the disease a little bit. Chances are, if you like the things that we talk about on the show, you probably know one other weirdo that might like it too. So introduce them to the show. You have something to talk about at the water cooler or whatever. The best way to support the show is to buy some books, and that's because it helps me pay for stuff, and also it kind of justifies me spending the time it takes to research these things and the hour it takes me to babble about them. I did get a listener email last week. I don't ever throw my email address out generally. So I did get a listener email, and basically the gist of it was, ew, you jerked off to Hillary Clinton? I then went on to say it was a long night and I was far away from home. Anyhow, I thought this sort of topic would be perfect since this is episode 69. I thought it was fitting for the subject we're going to talk tonight a little bit about, celebrating episode 69 with the little quote, as above, so below action. So, I like to put in context the episodes, like if we've already talked about these things or if they link up with other episodes that we talked about. So this episode is going to link in tertiarily to episode 57, 58, which were the great episodes about the Babylon working. It's going to also link in with episode 48, which was the Age of Aquarius / the Aeon of Horus episodes. And episode 31, which was the magnum opus of alchemy. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting about, but that's it. That's what I think. No, there is another one. I'm fucking forgetting it. Alright, so tonight, friends, mix up your spell, mix up your alchemical formula for the Jinn Jihad, because tonight we are going to talk about the goat of Mendes, the Sabatic goat. Tonight we are going to talk about Baphomet. Okay, so to get us started, I'm going to say right off the bat that I mentioned three things. I mentioned the Sabatic goat. I mentioned the goat of Mendes, and I mentioned Baphomet. So I know that all three of these things are separate, but they all kind of get confused for one another. We're going to be talking mostly about this famous drawing from a guy named Eliphas Levi about Baphomet. Okay, so we're going to get into it a lot, but it's separate from the Goat of Mendes. However, I just need to say that Eliphas Levi also referred to the character in the picture that he drew as the Goat of Mendes. So I understand it's confusing, and I understand they need to be separated, but I'm going to need to also say that they all get smashed together, and there's a reason for that, okay? So if you want to, now would be a great time to Google image search or whatever, Eliphas Levi Baphomet. If you just put Baphomet in your thing, probably this picture will show up. It's pretty famous if you don't know it already. So we're going to be talking a lot about details about the picture. So, I mean, if you don't want to check it out, that's fine. But if you do, you can follow along as we start getting into this and breaking down the different nuances or whatever. So I'm going to kind of start off with this. I found this I found this video called The Brief History of Baphomet, and it's Baphomet. This Brief History of Baphomet on YouTube. And basically what it is, it's this hilarious, what I imagine is a Southern Baptist preacher talking about basically like a profane, basically like a profane version of like what you see, or like what he, I guess, sees when he looks at this picture of Baphomet. So what he sees, obviously, is he sees like some kind of, it's a satanic image. It's some kind of Luciferian sort of thing. So I'm gonna let this guy talk a little bit, and it's, believe me, this guy is he's hilarious. So, and I'm gonna put the link in the show notes if you want to watch the whole thing. We're not gonna watch the whole thing, so I don't. We're just going to listen to him get his first like take or whatever about this picture. So I think the guy's name, I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. It says by Tex Mars, but I can't see this guy being named Tex. But okay, so here we go. This is, like I said, this is a profane sort of take on this picture of Baphomet that we're going to be talking all about tonight.
A Satanist named Eliphas Levi created an idol of the devil the form of Baphomet, the great goat god. He was worshipped by the Knights Templar and by Gnostics and Satanists, and many say even in the Illuminati systems of today.
By the power of God,
Luciferian goat god Baphomet is worshipped. Notice his androgynous, that is male and female, appearance. The torch of light on his head, the horns that come out of the goat's head. Notice the satanic pentagram, the two serpents coming out of the genital area, and of course the horned goat hooves. Now it's interesting that Aleister Crowley, known as one of the most vicious and most horrible Satanists of the 20th century, was in fact a man who called himself Baphomet. And in his book, The Book of the Law, published in 1904, Aleister Crowley, the great British Satanist, who once bragged that he was the wickedest man on the planet and self-styled his own being as the Antichrist, signed in that book his name. But it wasn't Aleister Crowley. He signed the name Baphomet. And this was the symbol of the seal of the Grand OTO. That is a secret satanic organization of which Aleister Crowley was the head. His seal was Baphomet. He was the Grand Master, but what is this strange creature? In fact, it appears to be a cockatrice. Some call it the bacillus.
You like saying it, so he does
the
twice.
Cockatrice, a serpent that is even mentioned in the Bible as a creature of evil. Baphomet. In the church.
Okay, so this guy spent too much time with a Gary Gygax monster manual. All right, so this famous drawing of Baphomet. First of all, a cockatrice is like a reptile bird kind of thing, where Baphomet, I mean, it has scales on its belly, but that's about, and wings. That's about it. Is found, okay, the famous drawing of Baphomet is found in Eliphas Levi's. Now, you guys have heard me butcher a lot of Latin, so I'm gonna start butchering some French here, okay, so forgive me. It is found in Eliphas Levi's Dogme et Ritual de la Haute Magie from 1897. So, like I said, I don't fucking speak French, so the English title of this book is called The Dogma and Rituals of High Magic. Let's do a little bit about Eliphas Levi here. I just got this book. My sister bought this book, The Encyclopedia of Occultism by Lewis Spencer. It's got a pretty good entry on Eliphas Levi here. So let's see. Alphonse Louis Constant, better known by his pen name of Eliphas Levi, was a French occultist of the 19th century who had been called the last of the Magi. He was born in 1810, and he was the son of a shoemaker. And though the good office of parish priest was educated for the church at Saint Sulpice, in due course he became a deacon, taking a vow of celibacy. Shortly after this, he was expelled from the Saint Sulpice for teaching doctrines contrary to those of the church. How he lived during the ensuing years is not known. About 1839, under the influence of a political and socialistic prophet named Ganau, he wrote a pamphlet entitled The Gospel of Liberty, for which he received 6 months' imprisonment in Paris. Notwithstanding his vow of celibacy, he married a beautiful girl of 16 and afterwards had the marriage annulled. It was probably not until Madame Constant had left him that he studied the occult sciences. At all events in his writing previous to this show little trace of the occult influence. In 1855, he published his Doctrine of Transcendental Magic, followed in 1856 by The Rituals of Transcendental Magic, and in 1860 was issued his History of Magic. In 1861, The Key of the Grand Mysteries, Fables and Symbols. In 1864, La Sorcière de Mendon and La Science des Spirits. I guess that means the sorcery of Mendon and the science of spirits. In 1865, most of his works have been translated by a Mr. A.E. Waite. He died in 1875. I am pretty sure that Mr. A.E. Waite is the Waite from the Rider-Waite tarot deck. Levi's knowledge of occult sciences was much more imaginative than circumstantial. And in pursuing his works, the reader requires to be on guard against the adoption of hasty generalizations and hypotheses. So this book is going to figure in because it's huge and it's got a ton of great stuff in it. So I'll be referring to it probably a lot. Okay, so this drawing that we're talking about is a winged humanoid goat with a pair of tits and a torch on its head between its horns. I know that the goat of Mendes is different than Baphomet, but Levi himself referred to Baphomet as the goat of Mendes. So you're like, bro, I've seen Nightbreed. Why are we talking about Baphomet? So I mentioned in the last episode, but we get into that we're going to get into the Templars probably sooner rather than later. And the Templars, Baffy, as I call them, will come up again. When the church and Philip the Fair fucked the Templars over, it was in part because they were apparently or allegedly worshipping this Baphomet, which had been speculated to be anything from the severed head of John the Baptist, which would make the Templars a secret Joanite sect, to a code word for Mohammed, making the Templars a secret Muslim sect. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? In 1098, this French crusader described their enemies in the Holy Land calling upon Baphomet before a battle, or Mahomet, referring to Mohammed, who of course is the prophet of the religion of peace. And, you know, they tell you about it all the time. What? You didn't know this? The Templars are sort of like my jam, though, because they're one of these rare sweet spots where you have history, the occult, conspiracy, and violence. Where have I heard that before? They all line up. It's just like a Stigmata Studios comic book. Demon worship, crusaders, Islam, and a secret. If you just had a giant walking tank in the middle of it, we would be on target. So I guess this is what I'm saying. This is what really could have happened to the Templars. Over the 200 years they were around, hanging out in the Middle East, they actually became a weird Islamic offshoot. You know, they infamously had rituals where they trampled on and spit on the cross and crucifixes, and they were eventually accused of being heretics. But their heresy was not for being Gnostics or goddess worshippers, which is super in vogue, recently. Their heresy was not for worshiping the devil. Their heresy was, in fact, the worship of Allah and his prophet Muhammad, or Mahomet, or Baphomet. You don't hear this shit on the History Channel. Dan Brown isn't telling you this shit. I am, right here on the Abercast. I don't even know if I believe that. I'm just being provocative. All right, but that was before. Okay, so that was early. So let's get back to our Baphomet, the Eliphas Levi, the guy who drew it. Argued that the name had been derived from Kabbalistic coding. Quote, the name of the Templar Baphomet, which should be spelt Kabbalistically backwards, is composed of 3 abbreviations: Tem, Oph, and Ab. Templi Onumum Honumum Pax Abbas, which means the father of the temple of peace of all men. Now, since we just got into this whole Templar Islam thing, doesn't that kind of sound like a religion of peace, sort of code or whatever, like a tenet? So let me do this again. The name of the Templar Baphomet, which should be spelt Kabbalistically backwards, is composed of 3 abbreviations: Tem, Oph, and Ab. Templi Onum Hominum Pax Abbas, which means the father of the temple of peace of all men. So Crowley, as this hilarious Southern Baptist preacher mentioned in the video that we watched part of, when he mentions that in the Book of the Law, Crowley identifies himself as Baphomet, and he signs the book as such. So we found in Crowley's book Confessions, he explains the name that he took, and there's some Greek in here that I'm going to mess up too. So okay, he says, I had taken the name Baphomet as my model in the OTO, which is the Ordo Templi Orientis, for 6 years. And more, I had tried to discover the proper way to spell this name. I knew that it must have 8 letters, and also that the numerical and literal correspondences must be such as to express the meaning of the name in such a way to confirm what scholarship had found out about it, and also to clear up those problems which archaeologists had so far failed to solve. One theory of the name is that it represents the words this isn't even English. The baptism of wisdom. Another, that it is a corruption of the title meaning father, Mithras. Needless to say, the suffix R supported the later theory. I added that the word as spelt by the wizard is totaled 729. This number had never appeared in my Kabbalistic workings and therefore meant nothing to me. It, however, justified itself as being the cube of 9. The word, the mystic title given by Christ to Peter as the cornerstone of the church, has this same value. So far, the wizard had shown me great qualities. He had cleared up the etymological problem and shown why the Templars should be given the name Baphomet to their so-called idol. Baphomet was Father Mithras, the cubical stone on which the corner of the temple. So when we look at Eliphas Levi's drawing of Baphomet, we really don't see a devil or a dark deity of evil and chaos. The drawing itself is not satanic at all. It's not the Prince of Lies. I mean, it looks weird for sure. A winged, breasted, penis androgyne with hooves and a goat's head. It is pretty weird. But when you start to look at it, it's actually a drawing about harmony and about being whole or completed. And I know you're like, no, it's an evil goat head creature. Like, come on. I'm like, okay, so let's look at the different symbols and stuff that's in here. It's jam-packed. Okay, so let's look at it. It's got the flame of knowledge, above its head. The upright pentagram on its forehead. It's got one arm, which is the masculine, the right hand, the right arm pointing up, with the word solve tattooed on it. It's pointing up to the white moon of Hased. The other arm, the feminine arm, with the word coagula pointing down towards the black moon of Gavora, the moon of strength. The rod of Caduceus like penis rising from its lap. I try to do my best to not do a he or she, since it's clearly in it. Fish scales on its belly. Hooves, the wings, and I guess you might be left saying, like, okay, well, what does it all mean? Remember the past episodes when Crowley has told us that the great work of alchemy was to unite the opposites, whether it be microcosm, macrocosm, or male and female, and that's all really. If that's all that this Baphomet is doing here, he points both up and down. This is called it's a hermetic sign. It's reminding us again of Crowley and the principle of as above, so below. The white moon, Hassad, on the Kabbalistic tree of life, is the first sephira of action. It's the fourth. It's the fourth sephira. It's the righteousness of God. It's his mercy and his kindness with the entire world. This is the right hand of God. Hased is God's absolute, unlimited benevolence and kindness. And then situated across Hased, on the tree of life, is the fifth sephira, which is Gwavara. And this is the black moon that the feminine hand of Baphomet, the coagula arm of Baphomet is pointing down towards. And Gevura is the essence of God's judgment and limitation. So right here we have the perfect harmony of mercy and justice. And we can sort of see the yin-yang being painted here already. The righteous mercy up above and the judgment and limitations down below. The right hand male, the left hand female. It's pointing up and it's pointing down. The stars above affect the ground below, and this is astrology. Astrology is the devil's work. This is the other one. Maybe that. Yeah, this is the other two episodes that I was talking about. I can't remember what the episode numbers are. Can I do this fast enough to not sound like an asshole? She walks by moonlight. And no one really knows. Enchanted starlight. Never going home. I know she's going. It's a Kiss song, so guess what she's doing? I know she's going now. Okay, so the other two episodes that this is talking about is episode 54 and 53. Remember how I said that there was other episodes I was forgetting that correlate to this? 53 especially is the Revelation 12 sign. And 54 is the sign of Jonah, and that's where we started getting into this astrological stuff real quick. So a lot of these fundamentalists are like, this is astrology. Astrology is the devil's work. Look, this goat-headed demon is telling us all about astrology, but they often forget that the Bible also says also talks about astrology in so many words. Acts 2:19 says, "And I will grant wonders in the sky above, in the signs on the earth below, blood and fire and vapor of smoke." And let's not forget Genesis 1:14. "And then God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and to let them be for signs and for seasons and for the days of the year." So what we're looking for, also like in Revelations, Revelations is all about, has a lot of signs in the sky. The woman clothed with the sun, the great red dragon, and the 7 angels with the 7 plagues. So what we're looking at is day, night, white, black, good, bad. It's kind of all there. We're going to get into this masculine and feminine solve and coagula right after this. Okay, so the masculine pointing to Hased, which is the white waxing moon. It's the right hand, says solve. And solve is it's Latin. It means to turn a solid into a liquid. So the feminine hand pointing down at Gavera, which is the waning black moon. The left hand, the coagula, is Latin, and it means making a liquid into a solid. You have the goat head, which is the masculine horned god with the tits, of a virgin goddess. The human, the animal, the man, the woman, the black, the white. And in the middle, what do we have? In the middle, we have this caduceus, the staff of Hermes, and there's some confusion about this as well. But on this Baphomet, it clearly has 2 snakes, so it's the caduceus. One snake is the god of Asclepius, who is the Greek god of healing. So, like the World Health Organization or whatever has like the UN map with the staff with the one serpent, so that's the staff of Asclepius. However, I believe there are some American-based health organizations or whatever that erroneously have the 2 snakes on the staff, making it the staff of Hermes rather than the rod of Asclepius. So there is a right and a wrong here. And there also is some confusion. So, but you're sitting here and you're probably going like, why is this guy making a big deal about how many snakes are wrapped around this guy's rod? Because it's not a symbol for medicine. It's a symbol of Hermes, and by extension, Hermes is gimmick, astrology, like we already talked about, alchemy, which we already kind of talked about, and more importantly, commerce and negotiation. These 2 realms, these are the 2 realms that balance exchange and reciprocity. Commerce and negotiation. There's 2 serpents there, and they these 2 realms that balance exchange and reciprocity. He's a messenger. So what we're really talking about here is we're talking about a medium. We're talking about a medium that allows communication. and exchange of ideas. Communication, exchange of ideas, that's commerce and negotiation. A transfer back and forth. This is the, I don't know, his serpent rod penis thing is like it's like the element of temperance. It's like the element of temperance between all of these conflicting or complementary ideas. The medium of communication, I guess, is the formula. It's the math problem that balances out black and white, and it balances out male and female, and it balances out, the old horned god and the virgin goddess. It balances out the elements. Oh shit, man, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about the elements in a second. But this, they chose to use this caduceus as a symbol for this equation, this communication equation, this medium of the transference of ideas. I'm totally off my notes right now. I'm pretty proud of myself. So, as I was craning wildly off into the abyss, I felt like that scene in Ghostbusters, not the Chick Busters, the original Ghostbusters, where they're like, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Because I was talking about like all the different, black and white, male, female, the different elements and all this stuff. But I was specifically talking about this caduceus penis that this Baphomet has. And that symbol also, I believe, is a metaphor for your chakras. This tantric sex or this meditation stuff when you're like, you got to activate your kundalini and your root chakra and all this stuff and so forth. I think that people look at the caduceus as a metaphor for that, and also because of like DNA, like the swirling double helix. But I did also say that we were going to get into the different elements that were depicted or symbolically encoded into this Baphomet. So there's 4 elements depicted: the fire on the torch above the head of Baphomet, the wings, the element of air represented by the wings, the water is represented by the fish scales on its belly, and the earth is represented by the dome that he's like sitting or standing on, and also in the same way as like the wings and the fish scales, his hooves can also be about the could be the code or whatever for the element of the earth. So I'm gonna just grab my encyclopedia here again. It's the Encyclopedia of Occultism, a compendium of information on the occult sciences, the occult personalities, the psychic sciences, magic, demonology, spiritism, mysticism, and metaphysics. The comprehensive illustrated treasury of occult knowledge from all times and all places. More than 2,500 entries and articles by Lewis Spence. So I'm going to just breeze in here real quick and like look at, for Baphomet is pretty dense. Well, I'm just going to run through here and like read some stuff. Baphomet, the goat idol of the Templars and the deity of the sorcerer's Sabbath. The name is composed of 3 abbreviations: Tem, Hope, and Ab. Templi Onum, Honumum, Passus, Abbasus. The father of the temple and the universal peace among men. Some authorities hold that Baphomet was a monstrous head I wonder if that's from the Templar stories about them worshiping this Saint John. This is not Saint John of Patmos. This is the Baptist. The biblical scholars call him the baptizer now, because Baptist has been taken. So I wonder if that's what they're talking about with this monstrous head thing. Baphomet was a monstrous head, because there's stories of Templars worshiping this gold cast head of John the Baptizer. An account of veritable Baphometic idol is as follows: a pantheistic and magical figure of the Absolute. The torch placed between the two horns represents the equilibrating intelligence of the triad. The goat's head, which is synthetic and unites some of the characteristics of the dog, the bull, and the ass, representing the exclusive responsibility of matter and the expiation of bodily sins in the body. The hands are human to exhibit the sanctity of labor, and they make the sign of esotericism above and below to impress mystery upon its initiates. And they point at two lunar crescents, the upper being white and the lower being black, to explain the correspondences between good and evil, mercy and justice. See, now you guys know why. It's the Hesed and the Guevara. The lower part of the body is veiled, portraying the mysteries and the universal generations, which are expressed solely by the symbol of the caduceus. The belly of the goat is scaled, and should be colored green. The semicircle above it be blue. The plumage reaching to the breast should be of various hues. The goat has female breasts, and thus its only human characteristics are those of maternity and toil. Otherwise, the signs of redemption. On its forehead, between the horns and beneath the torch, is a sign of the microcosm, or the pentagram, with one beam in the ascendant, symbol of human intelligence, which placed thus below the torch, making the flame of the latter in the image of a divine revelation. This Pantheos should be seated on a cube, and its footstool would be a single ball, or a ball with a triangular stool. Ooh, triangular stool? What the fuck? Right. Narratives of sorcery and magic. Writing on Baphomet says another charge in the accusation of the Templars seem to be a great degree proved by the dispositions of the witnesses, the idol or the head in which they are said to have worshipped, but the real character or meaning of which they are totally unable to explain. Many Templars confess to having seen this idol, but they described it differently. We must suppose that it was not in all cases represented under the same form. Some said it was a frightful head with a long beard and sparkling eyes. Others said it was a man's skull. Some described it as having 3 faces. Oh, they don't talk about this here. Some say it was a cat with 3 faces, which is wild. Where am I at? Some say it was of wood and others of metal. One witness described it as a painting, tabula picta, representing the image, a man, and said that when it was shown to him, he was ordered to adore Christ his Creator. According to some, it was a gilt figure, either of wood or metal, while others described it as painted black and white. According to another disposition, the idol had 4 feet, 2 before and 2 behind, and one belonged to the order at Paris, and the other is said to be a silver head with 2 faces and a beard. The novices in the order were told always to regard this idol as their savior. Diotias Jaffet, a knight from the south of France, who had received a pendant, deposed that the person who in this case performed the ceremonies of reception showed him a head or an idol, which appeared to have 3 faces. You must adore this as your savior and as the savior of the order of the temple, and that he was made to worship the idol, saying, "Blessed be he who shall save my soul." Quetus Regonius, a knight received at Rome in a chamber of the palace at Lateran, gave a somewhat similar account. Many other witnesses spoke of having seen these heads, which, however, were perhaps not shown to everybody. For the greatest number of those who spoke on the subject said that they had heard speak of the head, but they had never seen it themselves, and many of them declared that their disbelief in its existence. A friar minor deposed in England that the English Templar had assured him that the country of the order had four principal idols, one at London, one at Sacristy of the Temple, another at Bristolham, and a third at Burean in Lincolnshire, the fourth beyond the Humber. Some of the knights from the south added another circumstance in their confession relating to this head. A Templar of Florence declared that in the secret meetings of the chapters, one brother said to the others, showing them the idol, "Adore this head. This head, this head is your God and your Mahomet." Another Goussard de Monstrapant said that the idol was made in the figure of Baphomet. And another, Raymond Ruby, described it as a wooden head on which was painted the figure of Baphomet, and he adds that he worshipped it by kissing its feet. I don't understand how you kiss a head's feet, but okay, exclaiming, "Exala!" Which describes the word of the sacristan. He's worshipping this thing by kissing its feet, so he's on the ground, on his hands and knees, bent down, yelling, "Ex Allah." It sounds an awful lot like Allah Akbar to me. At least Allah. Maybe not the Akbar part. Maybe I overstretched my boundaries there. This had been seized upon by some proof that the Templars had secretly embraced Mahometanism, as Baphomet or Baphomet is evidently a corruption of Mohammed. But it must not be forgotten that the Christians of the West constantly use the word Mohammed in their mere signification of an idol. Why do they got to make everything so fucking complicated? And this was the desire of those who conducted these persecutions against the Templars, to show that their intimate intercourse with the Saracens, especially von Hammer, gave Greek derivations of the word and assumed it as proof that Gnosticism was the secret doctrine of the temple. So, I mean, there you go. Right? So, I frequently am, I know you might not even believe this, but I frequently am like, when I sing my little songs before the theme starts, I just do that off the top of my head, and I always find that it's weird that it loops in somehow. Like, these guys are worshiping this head, and I was singing "She Walks by Moonlight," where she's going down, everybody knows that she's so good at going down. Bros. It's synchronicity. So I guess that's my case for Baphomet, with a few twists and turns, I guess. But if you look at this drawing with the right eyes and the right mindset, you don't see the goat of Satan, but instead a profound reminder to keep things in your life, your work life, or your creative life, or maybe your spiritual life, or whatever, to keep these elements in harmony and balance them. At least that's what I try to get out of it. Certainly you don't try to get a knee-jerk reaction about the Dark Lords of Chaos. I mean, it's not a Clinton, for Christ's sakes. But instead, I like to look at it as a reminder, like I said, to keep these things in, a reminder to keep things in balance in your life. Play as hard as you work. Okay, so of course this image has been taken and used by Church of Satan and Luciferians and death metal bands and all this stuff. But next time someone throws this image in your face, don't be like, explain to them maybe a little bit about it. Explain to them a little bit about the Kabbalistic tree of life and what Hased and Guevara means. Explain to them about it's actually a picture about the harmony between men and women. It's a marriage of different opposite ideas and constants in your life. I don't know, it's been taken by Satan and Luciferians and death metal bands. I don't know if it's wrong or inappropriate. It just adds to the baggage of this already weird kind of image. But what do I know? I'm just a writer with a podcast. So I hope you guys liked listen to me babble on passionately about Baphomet. I would like to encourage and invite you guys to support the Abercast. Rate and review it at iTunes. Buy a book or two. It's the holiday season. Who wouldn't like to read a book about a jinn jihad or a cataclysm of the ages on this during this holiday season? You can also tell a friend, spread the disease. So go ahead and write something, draw something, record something. Remember to check me out at stigmatastudios.com. You can find everything I'm going on, what I got coming up, all right there. Links to all my social media if you guys want to hunt me down. There's not much of a hunt, but if you guys want to drop me a line, I would love to open up some dialogue with some listeners. So please encourage you guys to do that. If you want to correct me or give me a correct pronunciation on something that I fucked up, or just tell me what you don't like about the show, or tell me what you do like about the show. Do you like the military history stuff? Do you like the Crowley OTO stuff? Do you like the Bible stuff? I don't know. Just let me know, will you? God damn it. All right, so coming up to close this fucking thing out, as we do with all of our Crowley episodes, we're going to turn to Aeon of Horus. We're going to play a song called, which one? We're going to play a song called Dissipate from Aeon of Horus. So right after this.
Vienna, 1683. Today is September 11th, 1683. The mighty army of the Ottoman Empire, led by the savage and radical terror troops of the Dar al-Harb, surround the walled city of Vienna and begin a siege to break the golden apple of Europe and kill, enslave, or convert all of its inhabitants. The valiant citizens stand against the tyrannical army with the steadfast leadership of Count Ernst Rudiger von Stromberg, the help of the ever-living rebel, Cyrus, the Dead Guy, and the hopes of the faraway King Jan Sobieski III and his army of flying hussars. The Vienna 1683 comic is available right now from Stigmata Studios at stigmatastudios.com and on indieplanet.us. The Non-Standard Squad, 1944. World War II. 3 weird American soldiers are on a search and rescue mission into the oldest and darkest regions of Europe. A cursed ever-living warrior, Cyrus the Dead Guy. An experimental war bot, Sergeant Lane McCord. In All Red Axe, mysterious rogue with a demon-possessed arm come face to face with an army of magically corrupted machine-obsessed elves, a magic hammer-wielding Norse Ubermensch, and a Nazi wizard who is a member of the ancient Dark Order of the Shining Hexagon. The Non-Standard Squad 1944 comic is available right now from Stigmata Studios at stigmatastudios.com and on indieplanet.us.